Dr. Litch believed that Miller's application of the Bible prophecies taught that one prophetic day equaled one literal year. In Numbers 14:34, after the number of the days in which ye search the land, even 40 days, each day for a year, shall ye bear your iniquities, even 40 years, and ye shall know my breach of promise. And Ezekiel 4:6, and when thou hast accomplished them, lie again on thy right side, and thou shalt bear the iniquity of the house of Judah 40 days. I have appointed thee each day for a year. So Josiah Litch, he took this principle of William Miller with the day for year principle, and he applied it to the time prophecies in Revelation chapter 9. One biblical year consisted of 360 days, we find that from the book of Genesis, and one biblical month equaled 30 days. Therefore, one prophetic year equals 360 years. In Revelation chapter 9, the fifth trumpet, we find a time prophecy of 5 months. 5 times 30 days equals 150 years. Therefore, the time of that first prophecy was to span 150 years. When did the 150 years start? According to Edward Gibbon, Othman first entered the territory of Nicomedia on July 1299, 27th July 1299, and that therefore started the attack on the Eastern Empire. 150 years later, that finished in 1449. But what happened in 1449? During the whole period, the Ottoman Turks were engaged in perpetual war with the Greek Empire, but yet without conquering it. But in 1449, a change came about. In the year 1448, John Pelagius, the Greek emperor, died, but left no children to inherit his throne. And in 1449, Constantine Decosis succeeded to it. He, however, would not venture to ascend the throne without the consent of Amurath, the Turkish Sultan. This was a voluntary surrender of the sovereignty of the state to the Turks. This row ended in 1449, and the second row was about to begin. What was the second time prophecy? The second time prophecy talked about an hour, a day, a month, and a year. And when we do the calculations, it works out to 391 years and 15 days. Now this may all sound fanciful and theoretical, but this is what Josiah Litch was teaching. So when did the time prophecy start? At the end of the fifth trumpet, 27th July 1449. Josiah Litch predicted that the fall of the Ottoman Empire would happen sometime in August 1840. Weeks before the date, he then narrowed it to the 11th of August 1840. He took 27th of July 1449, added 391 years and 15 days, and came to the 11th of August 1840. What happened on the 11th of August 1840? The Ottoman Empire, the Sultan, he voluntarily gave his empire to the nations of Europe. He gave up his power and he handed it over to the nations of Europe, thereby fulfilling this prophecy. And what happened at this prophecy when it was fulfilled? Over 1,000 infidels converted that day to the Millerite movement. It also added a power and emphasis to the first angel's message because it confirmed and it added strength to the day for a year principle. We also find this account in the book Great Controversy. One of these other preachers was James White, a youthful, energetic school teacher who heard the Advent preaching at the age of 21. This man, he was blind for most of his years, and then a miracle happened. He received his sight. He was so cross-eyed that he could not see. But about the age of 15, all of a sudden he could see. And all he wanted to do was to become a scholar. He studied and studied and studied, and he became a great scholar. And then his mother invited him to come to a Millerite meeting. And there he accepted the truth. And so what did he do? What did he do when he accepted the truth? He went out and he bought a Charles Fitch chart explaining the 2,300-year prophecy. He borrowed a horse and a saddle and rode through the snows of Maine, preaching wherever people would listen. What are you going to do with the truth? Are you going to sit on it, or are you going to do something with it? And by the way, on this chart here, we see the 2,300-day prophecies, and we see the date 508, we see the 1260, and we see this prophecy up here, 2520, and we'll talk about that this afternoon. And we see 538 AD. So all the landmark time prophecies, the foundation pillars of our faith, are found in this chart. Sister White has something to say about this chart. I've seen that the 1843 chart was directed by the hand of the Lord, and that it should not be altered, and the figures were as he wanted them, that his hand was over and hid a mistake in some of the figures, so that none could see until his hand was removed. Then I saw in relation to the daily that the word sacrifice was supplied by man's wisdom and does not belong to the text, and that the Lord gave the correct view of it to those who gave the judgment hour cry. So we know that God gave the correct view of the daily to these pioneers. When union existed before 1844, nearly all were united on the correct view of the daily. But in the confusion since 1844, other views have been embraced, and darkness and confusion have followed. And time has not been a test since 1844, and it will never again be a test. And today we are confused over what the daily is. We're confused over what the abomination of desolation is. But the Millerites, the early pioneers, they were clear and sound about what the truth was. In 1843, chart was directed by the hand of the Lord and should not be altered. In relation to the daily, the word sacrifice does not belong to the text. The Lord gave the correct view of the daily to those who gave the judgment hour cry. And other views of the daily bring darkness and confusion. And time has not been a test since 1844, and it will never again be a test. You see, because we've got differing views on the daily and the interpretations of Daniel 7, 8, 9, and the book of Revelation and the trumpets, we are jumping all over the place with time prophecies. We are applying the 1290 and the 1335 to time periods which have already been fulfilled. Once we bottom out where the daily and the abomination desolation stand in prophecy, we have a firm date of 508 AD, 538 AD, and we know that the 1335 time prophecy ended in 1843, and we know that the 1290 time prophecy ended in 1798. There is no more time prophecies to be fulfilled. But living preachers were not enough. In August 1840, the second advent began to be proclaimed through the printed page. The signs of the times began in Boston, and copies reached out across the nation, and some were sent to other lands. In 1842, camp meeting began. Thousands gathered at these convocations, some of the largest having nearly 9,000 in attendance. Wouldn't you like to go to a camp meeting with 9,000 people attending? Railroads scheduled special trains to bring people to these meetings. Approximately 500,000 people heard the message in this way. Finally they entered 1843. Believers prepared earnestly for Christ's coming. Then, studying the date more closely, they determined that October 22nd, 1844 must be the date the prophecy pointed to. The expected time drew nearer and nearer. August 1844 came. The time of the midnight cry began. Behold, the bridegroom cometh. Go ye out to meet him. Only a few days away, the last issue of the Signs of the Times read, our work is now finished. We are now making our last appeal. In only a few hours, the Adventists expected the sky to divide as Jesus returned with 10,000s of his angels. Crops were left in the fields unharvested. The day had come, October 22nd, 1844, the day of the Lord. Tens of thousands of Adventists waited expectantly. A group at Miller's home went out to this limestone outcropping, and there they prayed, they sang, and waited for the coming of Christ. The day dawned, but the Son of Righteousness did not come. Noon came, and the Adventists waited patiently, sometimes singing, sometimes hushed, sometimes praying. The sun set, but the King of Kings, with his banners of victory and deliverance, did not come. The hours